something suggested. Now, how many of you remember in the early 60s when subliminal suggestion and the televisions and in your drive-in theaters was really no-noed and really attacked? You remember that? When they flash up their popcorn real quick and Coca-Cola or something and make you drool and starve and run out and buy it all. Huh? Well, they have been banned from doing that. But the backward masking, the reason I'm blending this out now, bringing this out, is because the backward masking ties into this, the subliminal suggestion. Now, I want you to know, even if, when I tell you this last part here about subliminal, even if it wasn't real, even if it didn't work, anybody that would be a skeptic, I want you to hear this. In the July 1971 issue of Time magazine featured an advertisement for Gidley's Gin. Picture of this ice-cold bottle of gin and a glass. The ice cubes were carefully arranged in the glass. Within the ice cubes were the letters S-E-X. Now, I saw this magazine. You can go to the Norfolk Library and pull up an old magazine, and you can see these ads. Now, here's the astonishing part. $75,000 was spent to make that one ad. And it is approximated that this advertisement alone now brought $24.2 million. Now, somebody has an idea that this thing works. Now, I want to do this and just mention it quickly here. This subliminal suggestion works on a cortex of your brain, and it makes a scratch like a record in your subconscious. Just like a record makes a groove. That's in layman terms. Makes a groove in there, and that thing can be picked up and brought back up to your mind on any given stimulus. It must have a stimulus to remind you or bring it back of what's happening. And when these kids sit in their bedrooms night after night, day after day, they listen to it in the morning in their cars, ride around with bicycles with it plugged in their ears, and they hear about Taking Your Parents by Elton John out in the street and beating them and seeing who's in charge, and they hear about having sex with animals, and they hear about making love to dead bodies, on and on and on. After a while, they get an idea planted in there that given the right situation, it's brought to the surface and they act on it. Now, one of the strongest ways that I can make this real clear to you is your eyes. You see me right now, and I see you upside down. Now, that's strange, isn't it? Your eyes see upside down. But because of the brain process and the electric impulses and nerves that work, it flips that picture up and brings it out right side up. Your mind has the ability to hear upside down or backwards. And I'll throw this in as we move along, that the Satan worshiping that's done in Satan churches, one of the things that they do is they chant their prayers backwards. Hear me now. This is documented. This is told you when we started. A style and a form of their satanic worship is done backwards. They have an idea that this thing works. They have an idea that this thing works. Now, let's take another issue real quick. How about the heaviness of the sound? We've all heard that, and we've all addressed that in some form or another, the heaviness, the metal sound of that rock and roll. And you're going to hear some in a minute. Bang, bang, whoop, boom. I said in a 10 years after concert one time where my fillings vibrated. I was so close to the speaker. And my daughter was inside of my wife, and she began to flip and do backflips. That's right. My wife's stomach was going like this. My daughter couldn't handle that sound. Now, there was an experiment that was conducted in Colorado with some plants. And there were several groups of assorted plants, usually 5 different plants to a group. And they would be placed in controlled environment chambers, big closed cabinets on wheels in which light temperature, and air were regulated automatically. At one side of each cabinet, a loudspeaker was placed to introduce the sound, and music was piped into the plants from 2 Denver radio stations. One group was exposed to a radio station that played rock music, and the other group was exposed to a station which played semi-classical. The results was this: the petunias listening to the rock music, they refused to bloom, and those with the semi-classical developed 6 beautiful blossoms. By the end of the 2 weeks, the petunias exposed to the rock music were leaning far away from the speaker and were leaning far away from the speaker and were showing erratic growth. This is a real document now. The petunia blooms, hearing the semi-classical music, were leaning towards the sound. Within a month, all the plants that were listening to the rock music were laying over dead. Now, if rock music has an adverse effect on plants, is the rock music listened to today, and not so often by this younger generation, is it possible that it's responsible for their erratic and chaotic behavior? Is it possible? Another example is this. How many of you think it can affect our cities or our homes or our schools? Or our kids' minds? That heavy sound constantly. One of the groups made a statement one time that said he was questioned, could he control his audience with his sound? And he told the reporter, watch. And by a certain amount of time into the concert, he had the audience doing exactly what he wanted them to do by the sound. Where girls undressed themselves with their pants. Where men leap and girls leap headlong right into the stage. Where they destroyed just recently an entire hall, an entire convention center, due to the electric sounds of one of today's rock groups. They destroyed every seat, every light, every curtain, every railing, every fire extinguisher. Everything in the building was destroyed before the concert was over. And several kids were taken to hospitals, and we all know several of the kids oftentimes in these concerts are killed even. Now, 2 cities of approximately the same population were chosen for this one experiment. And both cities are in the Midwest. Each city has approximately the same number of nightclubs, radio stations, and high schools. And each city has 1 college and 1 TV station. In one of these cities, rock and roll rules the roost. 2 of its radio stations broadcast it almost all day long, every day. And 2 of its 3 nightclubs feature it almost all the time. Its TV stations telecast a teenage rock and roll party once a week, which if you'll notice coming up soon on television, they're trying to promote it, a once a week rock and roll television show. Full concert level and everything. How many of you saw Devo on television just recently? I think it was a few nights ago. Okay, and we'll discuss Devo for a minute here and what they're showing on television with these things. But now, it had 2 high schools that used rock and roll for music, for just about all their dances and proms, and 1 college did the same. Its 1 civic center featured a teenage rock and roll party almost every Saturday night, and in the other city, one of its 2 radio stations broadcast some rock and roll occasionally, but the other station seldomly ever did. And the other city did all the contrary to that first city, okay? Now here's the point. To prove the point, it can be found that the city where the rock rules the combined rate of unwed mothers, school dropouts, teenage deaths by automobile accidents, burglaries, store break-ins, general vandalism is almost 50% higher than it is in the city where the good dance and good music rules. To get this information only requires a checking of the schools, radio stations, TV stations, nightclubs, hospitals, ADC offices, sheriff and police departments in both of these cities. The name of these 2 cities are Paducah, Kansas, and Cape Girardeau, Missouri. These are real experiences and real things that they experimented with. Now, rhythm is a part of this rock and roll thing. We all understand the rhythm. We all know that the rhythm has the ability to drive and pulsate and send a beat that sends a message. Okay? We understand that. Now, it works, your body works with all kinds of beats and all, and rhythm in itself is not the thing. Rhythm in itself is not the thing. Again, like we talked about, music is what? Amoral. Amoral, okay? Now, psychiatrists today are using music to soothe patients, to shock patients out of their lostness and so forth. They're using it constantly today. Music is being used in colleges here at Old Dominion. We contacted some people, and they're using music to work with people and all kinds of effects. Rhythm has an effect on our bodies. It works on our flesh. It works on our rhythm of our natural body. But rock and roll works contrary to the natural rhythm of your body. Okay? And the beats, your heart beats at a certain beat, you know, a certain pulsating beat. And rock and roll music works the opposite of that. And while they ram that loud sound and that opposite beat, they filter in it. This is done scientifically with computers and everything, right in the midst of an opposite beat of your own heartbeat, where your heart just goes boom, 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 boom. They go boom, 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 boom. Right in the midst of it, they jam right in it your own heartbeat. The sound that's coordinated with your own heartbeat. Now what that does is, that brings that young person into a chaotic, total state of confusion within their own being, physically as well as mentally. Okay? Now I want to show you something here with some music experiments that we've done. And we're going to play some music, some tapes, and show you some slides. And this part of it is the part I'm sure many of you wanted to hear. But I wanted you to understand clearly what all this music can do and has the effect of doing. Now, these two young men here are going to play some music. And I want you all to relax right now. I want you all to relax. Just get comfortable. We're going to do something for fun here. There you go. Everybody took advantage of that. Okay. Now, I don't want you to think of any kind of music now. Don't you think of any kind of music, but I want to show you how music can work with you and on you. I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you walked through the house and something was on the tube, and before you knew it, you're walking around the rest of the day singing, or something? You had that tune, you know, and you go, what am I doing? You know, where did I get that? All right. Now you watch. Just hang on a minute. We're going to play 6 styles of music, and these styles of music will bring across this point. Okay? Let's do number 1. Popcorn, peanuts. See the elephant coming in right now. Come right down. You could smell the elephants, couldn't you? Let's do another one. Obvious. That sound, you immediately begin to snicker and you knew. Oops. Let's do another one, Lee. This is a good one here. Now, I want you quiet a minute now. Just settle down and think. Just think now. That's a good one. Oh, that must be like saluting or waving a flag or something. Feel like jumping up and shouting America or something. Amen? All right, let's try another one. This is after you've had a hard day at work. Just settle back. Take a load off your feet. Put your feet back up on the couch.
you a real message. Let's see if you can pick this one out. Lee, go ahead. Every one of you, begin to grab your pocket. I mean, you saw it snowing, you know, you just, oh man, it's time, isn't it? Isn't music an amazing thing? Music it can bring joy to our hearts. Now all of you begin to laugh when that song was played, because it just brings joy to your heart. I want you to think on this one now. This is a tape on this one. Music is effective, isn't it? Huh? Did you feel the effects of that? Give me some kind of acknowledgement that you felt the effects of that, huh? All right. Now, we've done something just for the sake of all those that possibly think that backward masking is not a reality. My brother here has put together something that he arranged himself. We're going to record this thing live right now. We're going to do a song that Scott has arranged and written, and I'll show you backward masking. Now, backward masking is done two ways. Purposely, which we have done, and then inspirationally by Satan himself. Satan inspires those that are his. I want you to know that. Satan uses people and he inspires them to do his work. Okay? And you'll see in these backward masking tapes we're going to do just in a moment here, where some of them are done totally by inspiration. Some of them are done deliberately. Scott, are we ready? Let's do it.
4, 3. The Jacksonville Cardinals have a first and goal. They're inside the 5-yard line. Hardy, I think they'll just drive it straight up the middle. It goes to number 7, Marvin Hampton, and he goes across for the score. We have a 13-13 tie. They'll be going for the tiebreaker. This game's moving right along.
I mean.